It only took me 81 hours, but I'm finally done with Assassin's Creed Origins. Which means I can get back to making a video about how to make comics instead of actually working on my comic. So you want to start a comic, but not one of those hashtag relatable or Focoma meme comics. You want to make a comic to tell a story. A story which you've been working on for years on end and believe it's finally time to tell it. But there's just a slight problem. You are a complete amateur and have never drawn a comic ever. You haven't got to comic school, you don't know if the story you made is worth drawing and putting all the time and effort in. Fuck, you don't even know how a good comic is supposed to look like. Well, friendo, not knowing how to make comics never stopped anyone from starting, and it shouldn't stop you either. Even the best comic artists had to start somewhere, and after all, like with everything else art-related, it's a learning process. And your time to start is now. But let me tell you this, drawing comics sucks when you first start. It's tedious, it takes forever, and the level of gratification you get from finishing a page is little to none. That being said, once you keep up the pace and finish 10, 15, 20 pages, you absolutely have all the reason to be proud of yourself. Think of it like this. When you're drawing a single picture, you might put 6 to 8 hours into it, just for one picture. But if you're working on a comic, for the same 6 to 8 hours, you essentially draw a bunch of tiny full-fledged pictures. You technically get more from drawing a comic than just that one picture you made. Makes sense? Sorta? You will notice a huge increase in skill, and while I can only speak from my personal experience, I do believe that drawing comics has helped me to get better at drawing much faster than just drawing single pieces over and over again. Okay, so, how do you start? Honestly, it is entirely dependent on you. Maybe you just want to kinda dip your toes in the water first and start with something small like a 10-page one-shot. Or maybe you're like, fuck it, and jump right into a 5,000-page monster of a comic. Either way, there are a few points you should think about before you start. Seriously, put some effort into these so you don't end up like me. Know what you want and when you want it to happen. This is especially important if you have a huge story planned. That said, knowing what you want is good, but I would also personally always leave some room for changes, even if they're just minor. I've been working on my comic for 2 years now and I'm still shuffling chapters around and adding more and taking away shit. I spent half a year thinking about how I want magic in my comic to work, only to scrap it later and overhaul the entire thing again. You've probably seen people have these like layouts of each comic page where they write a description of every panel, write down the dialogue, write what the characters are doing. And while you can do that, I think it's a colossal waste of time. I like writing my pages through dialogue and side notes, so no panel or background description, just who is saying what and maybe a small note as to what they're doing. I don't give a fuck about correct spelling when I'm writing a script. Later when I text the page, I probably change the dialogue anyway to make it sound less awkward, which works 60% of the time. Real talk, I already had about 60 pages of dialogue written down, 10 chapters in total, but then after not touching it for like a year, I read over it again and it sounded fucking awful. I'm currently in the process of rewriting all of it. Boy, it is gonna take some time. Bitch, I started out on a lazy summer day in July of 2016. I didn't give a fuck about the layout of my pages and speech bubbles and all that shit, and it really shows. So now I'm pretty much stuck with what I have. Black pages with white borders and for some reason also black speech bubbles. What the fuck was I thinking? If you think of a regular old comic, you're gonna have the basic A4 or A5 portrait page in mind. Something you get from the comic book store. Nowadays, thanks to the magic of webcomics, there's so many more layouts you can try out. Like landscape, or like in Chinese and Korean manga, a long, continuous vertical page. Take a look at your choices and pick what works best for you. Now the last thing I want to talk about are some general tips I've come across over the past 2 years of drawing comics from both trial and error and tips from my best friend who actually went to comic school, so they know what the fuck they're talking about. Unlike me. backgrounds can be as annoying for comics as they are for single-piece drawings. Luckily, you can make your life a whole lot easier. Don't want to spend 50 hours looking for reference pictures or worse, drawing from memory? Just make a 3D model. It's so easy. The program is free. It's called SketchUp. It has a 3D warehouse where you can download all types of furniture for your house, so you don't have to draw it off from memory. It's awesome! All you need to do is put down a floor plan, download the furniture you want to use, put it all in place, and then take a screenshot of the panel you want and draw the characters in. No more struggling for backgrounds, bitches!
Hell yeah!
And while we're on the topic of not having to waste time anymore, here's another tip that can shave about half an hour of your drawing. Text your page after you're done with the rough sketch. You can save so much time by knowing exactly where the speech bubbles are supposed to be, cause now you don't have to draw the shit behind the speech bubbles. Be smart. Be like a mangaka. Cover your mistakes with speech bubbles because nobody will fucking care. At one point or another, you're gonna run into some problems while making your comic. And that is stuff you just don't know how to draw. My absolute pinnacle of
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
is drawing fast motion in perspective and buildings. I just cannot fucking get it right and it sucks. But here's the thing, I have to fucking do it. Cause if I don't do it, 1, it's gonna look weird as fuck, and 2, how the fuck else am I gonna learn it? So if you know it's gonna look wonky as shit, pick up your references, power through what you hate to draw, sacrifice a goat if you need to, and just
Do it!
a wonky hand, a diamond foot, a 2 dots and a mouth face for 3 panels in a row is all fine. Nobody is going to give a shit, and you definitely shouldn't either. Sometimes pages don't turn out the way you wanted them to, and that's fine as well. Work harder on your next page and you will notice yourself getting better. The most important part is that you have fun and don't let your frustration over not being able to draw this one fucking panel right kick you in the stomach. It's going to get better, I promise. And as always, thank you so much for listening, and I wish you all the luck in the world with your projects. I hope some of these tips were helpful, and if not, you can always just wing it.